All right, welcome back to another Thursday. We are going to attempt to stream every Thursday. So, all right, I want to say hello on Instagram. All right, we'll see who joins us. There's Nick. We love Nick. All right, so Thursdays we stream to YouTube, and we are going to stream to Instagram today as well for a bit. So, I'm going to do some house hacking Q&A since the season 1 of the Property Squad is all about house hacking. That notification will go away here in 2 seconds. Hey Nick, how's it going? All right, house hacking Q&A. We got to say what the heck is house hacking. This will be very quick because I know all of my friends here on Instagram, they are veterans. So house hacking is where you purchase a home to live in, a property to live in, and you go ahead and you rent out some or part of that property to go ahead and sorry, I got friends over here. So you want to recoup some of that your housing expenses. You're going to pay off some of your monthly housing expense by renting out part of your property. Now, this can look like a bunch of different ways. The kind of single family has so many options in that you can get roommates, just rent by the room. You can also do that basement unit. That's the most recent episode of the Property Squad has the basement unit. All right, Michael Branson, what's up, buddy? And so that's a really good way to split. I don't want roommates. You guys don't want roommates. Not everybody wants roommates, but sometimes you have to do that in order to do the house hack that you can afford. Or some people like roommates. It's okay. Dan Mackin does a really good basement unit. And so he separates his family. He's got kids and a wife and a dog. So he separates his family from the rest of his property, which is, of course, ideal. So in a single family, you can also do storage. So there are websites where you can rent out unused room in your property to go ahead and do have other people store their things. That includes the garage. I've had clients who have rented out their garage to NASCAR teams, to semi-pro NASCAR teams. I have an interview coming up where Colorado Springs investor has a fourplex. He rents out the garage to a mechanic, which is kind of cool, and gets some income from that. There's also the old RV pad in the backyard. I've rented out an RV pad in someone else's yard. I didn't want to go to one of those big storage units and have my then RV sit there, and I just paid the guy $200 a month to just park my RV in his yard, basically. And for the garage, there's bands, there's different businesses who are looking for that kind of thing. Obviously, there's the duplex where you live in one side and you rent out the other. So there's your cool house, two sides. You live here, they live here. Easy. And with the triplex, fourplex, it is very similar. And so triplex, you live in one unit, rent out the other two units. Quadplex, live in one unit, rent out the other two. So our first question in my amazing handwriting, how does my credit score affect the ability to qualify for a house hack? And that's a good question. That's going to go straight into your just normal loan. It's not going to be different from a house hack. You're usually going to be doing a owner occupant loan. And so you're just going to have to abide by the owner occupant loan credit restrictions. So there's no really special sauce for credit score when it comes to house hacking. It's just going to be whatever FHA or conventional lender wants to see for credit, which is usually for FHA, it's a little bit lower, which is nice. So you can have less credit, less down payment, and go ahead and get into a house hack. And that's usually 680 is what conventional lenders like to see. Anything above that, obviously, better rates, better treatment. They just treat you nicer, which is nice. And then for FHA, it can go down to 620. There are some options at 580, and I'm not 100% sure if those exist anymore, but aim for 680 for your credit, no matter what you're going to be buying. So that leads straight into the next question, which is a down payment requirement. And for this FHA, which is a typical first-time home buyer loan, this is a 3.5%. So on a $100,000 loan, you need to come up with $3,500. And that down payment, it is lower to get entry-level people into homes. It is backed by the Federal Housing Authority. And so with that will come private mortgage insurance, which we have talked about before. But 3.5% is the lowest amount. You could put down more, but FHA 3.5%. With a conventional loan, it's going to be as little as 5%, but they want to see more. They want to see 10 or 20%. And so on that, that's going to look like, we'll get a new screen here. They will want to see more. So on a $100,000 loan at 5%, you are looking at $5,000. And at 10%, 10,000, 20%, 20,000. You get the idea there. And of course, you're not usually getting a $100,000 loan. You are getting something that is much higher, unless you're buying a shack or a tent on some land. Oh, I know how much Nick likes tents on land. So, all right, we're speeding through these, which is good. All right, question 3, which has to do with exit strategies on these properties. So what are the typical exit strategies for house hacks? And so your first option, we'll just put it over here. Your first option is to sell it. Since you owner occupied the property, you can actually take any of the proceeds up to a certain amount. Usually it's $250,000 if you're single, and you can take that tax-free, and you can do whatever you want with it. So you can take that, put it down on your new house. You can pay off some loans, pay off whatever. You can 1031 it, or no, you can't. Sorry, I'm an idiot. I was thinking of something just 2 seconds ago. But typically, if you're selling it, and since you're an owner occupant, you get the best of both worlds. You get a bunch of really good benefits from owner occupant. You get tax benefits from the owner occupancy. You get to write off some of your expenses and depreciate due to just having rental income, which is awesome. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. And then when you sell it, you actually can recapture that $250,000 of equity profit. So if you sell, you owe 250,000, it's worth 500,000. You take that $250,000 and you don't have to pay taxes on it since you were an owner occupant. The next option is to keep it, which is awesome. So if you're going to keep it, moving out and then renting out the space where you occupied. So in a triplex, you're talking about renting out that third unit. On a duplex, you're going to rent out, the area that you're occupying. Inside of a single family, you will rent out the room that you were in. And I've had lots of clients do this where they had roommates. They just bounced. They just said, look, I'm going to go buy my next house. You guys stay here or not. You can come with me. And I'm just going to rent out my room to another room by room renter. And so you can evaluate the numbers based on what's going to happen here. So if it's a short-term rental, you would want to run the numbers on your bedroom. On a long-term rental, same thing. You want to go ahead and check out the numbers. So then you can really make an informed decision. Do I need to kick out all the roommates and put in a midterm rental on this entire 3-bedroom house? Do I need to, is just renting my room going to cover enough of the mortgage for it to make sense? If you're already cash flowing and then you rent out your room for an extra, $800, $900, you just have to run the numbers at that point to figure out what makes the most amount of sense. So selling it is an option, but most house hackers that I've worked with and that I know, they start stacking from here. They'll live in a property for a year and then they will move on to the next property. So they'll go ahead and they'll stack up these houses, and every year they'll go ahead and they'll just stack up these homes, which is cool. I have clients who are on their third or fourth house hack, which is awesome. And I mean, it's just a really, really good strategy. All right. Oh boy. All right. Question 4. What are my tax obligations on a house hack? All right. Tax obligations. So you're talking about having some tax benefits. And then you have some tax liabilities. Believe me, that does say liabilities. It's my handwriting. All right. So your tax benefits, mortgage interest, you get to deduct that, and then depreciation. Your liabilities come from, or in your benefits are also expenses. Man, need more room on this little guy. So for each one of these, this video is probably way too short to get into each one, but just know that these are all things. I saw a post from Amanda Hahn just today, actually, where she's talking about house hacking, tax implications, exactly this question. And she wrote the 2 books for BiggerPockets on tax strategy when it comes to investment properties. And I'll tag her here when I'm done. But the liabilities come from now income. So if we're good little boys and girls and we report our income to the tax man, which you probably want to do if you want to, qualify for the next property, you want to show them that you're actually making some income. The depreciation and the expenses, let's try a different color here. So the depreciation and the expenses will and can cancel out any income liability that you have. So if you're bringing it, like some of the numbers that we're talking about on the podcast, Kim is bringing in $5,700 a month, and the amount of that is cash flow is $1,200. So she's bringing in, $13,000-$14,000 a year and living there for free. You have someone like Dan that's bringing in $30,000 a year, and that's probably covering most of his mortgage. But these expenses mean that you don't have to actually pay tax on the income that's coming in. I'm not a tax professional. Nick and Mike might be tax professionals, but I'm not a tax professional. But this in general is the strategy, but you definitely want to talk to your CPA or your accountant or your bookkeeper when you're looking into getting a house hack so that you can really know the numbers and what you're getting yourself into. All right, the next one. Do I need a permit or a license to house hack? This is actually a really good question, and it's going to be one of these very unsatisfying. It depends. It really depends on your area. what the laws and the rules and restrictions are. Um, there are areas in Denver and Aurora where you do have to register your rental, even if you live there. If you're going to be doing any kind of Airbnb, you have to register those. Airbnb, I need to break this habit. I don't know if you guys are in this habit as well, but anytime I'm referring to a short-term rental, I just say Airbnb like an idiot. when um, there's obviously other ways to short-term rent. So I'm gonna try to do better about that. So if you're doing any kind of short-term rental, they want to see that you've applied for and got a license. And sometimes there's extra taxes involved in that. There's an application fee, there's a license fee, those kind of things. And so you really want to check with your area, check with your HOA. It can go city, the county might have some restrictions, and definitely, I don't know if any are like at state level, but check the city and county and check your HOA to make sure that you can do what you want to do. So typically, if you're doing a roommate situation, you live in a single family residence, you have 2 or 3 roommates, you typically won't have to get any kind of um, permit or license. But again, depending on the area, and there are some restrictions on this. Like in the city of Denver, there's a certain amount of non-relative people who can be on a lease. Well, if you're the owner and each room has its own lease, you technically get around all of this, right? But you definitely want to check and make sure that you're doing it the right way so you don't get nailed in the future on that. So yeah, thank you everybody for coming in and joining. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter one, but I definitely appreciate everybody coming and joining, hanging out, and enjoying the new whiteboard toy, which is always fun. So, all right, I'm going to shut off Instagram now. Bye, guys. And and yeah, so uh, if you're looking for more information on house hacking, if you want to hear house hacking stories and strategy, definitely check out the Property Squad podcast, where each week I interview somebody about their house hacking story. That's just season 1, house hacking. We're going to get into more real estate strategies as we go along. But uh, each week we're going to interview a house hacker, go through the numbers, talk about their story, and then in that next episode, I'm going to take 1 or 2 pieces that I feel like people can really take action on, and they can, um, and then we dive deeper into it. And so, for example, Kim, episode 1, I pulled out contractor vetting from her strategy and really went deep into it in episode 2. And that's because it's so important to uh not just hear these stories from these people. Like, the stories are great. Do not get me wrong. The stories are amazing. I would listen to real estate stories all day long. But if you don't have anything of action, anything of substance to take away from that as well, then I'm, I'm not really doing you any kind of service besides just interviewing my friends or interviewing cool real estate investors, right? So my goal is that you can listen to these, take pieces from them, and then take action inside your own business. And full circle would be, you know, this is my ideal full circle for the Property Squad. I have my normal episodes, okay? And someone listens to that. So here's a guy, listens to it, takes action, goes ahead, buys a cool house hack, buys a rental, has success. Here he is having success. He's very happy. Then my goal would be for that person to come all the way back and be a guest on the podcast. Like, this would be my very ideal full circle for the Property Squad, would be a listener to take action on the information that they learned, go buy a property, have some success, make some money, come back on, and we can talk about it right back on the Property Squad, where someone else is going to listen to that episode. They're going to take action. They're going to have success. And then we can have them on the podcast. It'll be like podcastception here, where we all just go in this vicious circle of awesomeness. All right, guys. Thank you again for everything. And check out the playlist of any videos that you want to check out from the channel. And we'll see you next time.